Welcome to the Explainer. Imagine, just stepping into this lush, overgrown wilderness, right? And suddenly, out of nowhere, you're staring at a completely abandoned European village. Today, we're exploring a seriously bizarre, deeply atmospheric world. It's a place where these grand, sweeping architectural dreams have just been left to rot, literally sinking quietly back into the earth. So, how does an entire city just disappear? Picture this. You've got authentic European architecture, winding cobblestone streets, towering windmills, and it's all completely devoid of life. It's just slowly being swallowed up by the dense Japanese wilderness. It is such an unsettling, almost dystopian image, and it totally begs for an explanation. Okay, let's dive into this, because the sheer scale of this place is absolutely mind-boggling. We're looking at a massive 25-hectare theme park and luxury resort. It's an entire ghost city. Originally, it was designed as a playground for millionaires, and terrifyingly, it's actually been slowly sinking into the mud and water for over a quarter of a century now. Section 1. A sinking Dutch illusion. Imagine standing at the entrance on a rain-soaked, incredibly humid day. You push past those rusty, no trespassing signs and the dense overgrowth, and you find the remnants of just incredible ambition. I mean, this wasn't some cheap carnival. It had authentic Dutch windmills, meticulous brick facades, flowing canals, even a full replica sailing ship anchored right there in the harbor. And right in the center sits this large, beautiful stone compass statue, now completely silent. Nature is just relentlessly swallowing up the cobblestone streets. It creates this wildly eerie contrast between human engineering and the wild. 2 million. That is the staggering number of visitors this park welcomed every single year at its absolute peak. Try to juxtapose that in your mind for a second. The joyful echoes of millions of families and excited tourists, contrasted with the absolutely dead, creaking silence that haunts the park today. It's wild. Section 2. Japan's bubble economy boom. To really understand how a project this massive could be built and then so utterly abandoned, we have to look at the era. The bubble economy in Japan during the 1980s was this wild time of aggressive economic expansion. Money was just flowing everywhere, growth felt seemingly limitless, and the country saw a massive surge of extravagant megaprojects, luxurious hotels, ski resorts, and gigantic theme parks. And this brilliantly illustrates how that overflowing, boundless capital of the 80s funded this entirely surreal undertaking. Tracing the park's tragic trajectory, it opened its doors in 1983, really thriving during that economic high. But, as we know, by the early 1990s, the bubble violently burst. Investments dried up, visitor numbers completely plummeted, and, to make matters worse, a new, larger competing park opened up nearby. However, the final literal nail in the coffin before it went bankrupt and closed for good on October 21, 2001, was a truly terrifying discovery. Large parts of the park were built on unstable ground, and the very foundation of the city was literally sinking. Now, you might be wondering, why build a Dutch village in Japan in the first place? Well, this wasn't just some random theme. Nagasaki was historically Japan's exclusive gateway to Europe for over 250 years, so this massive park was intended to be a walkable, completely immersive homage to that deeply rooted cultural and trading history between Japan and the Netherlands. Section 3. Exploring the toxic ruins. If you step inside these buildings today, the magic is completely gone. It's been replaced by very real, present-day dangers. The atmosphere just becomes overwhelmingly heavy, and every shadow kind of hides a new, unseen hazard. Let's take a curated tour of the decay, shall we? We start at the Mark 10 restaurant, move through the hollow steel shell of the Future City Cinema, and end up at the Captain Verstein 3D Theater. Inside these spaces, the stifling humidity hits you like a physical wall. The air is terribly cold in certain places, yet it's thick with this overwhelming, sickly smell of wet rot and decay. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the bizarrely specific details left behind. They are absolutely fascinating. We aren't just looking at empty rooms here. There's a headless pirate statue just sitting in what used to be a ball pit. In the restaurants, those pristine 500 yen plastic display foods, the perfectly molded replicas of shrimp and rice balls, they're still sitting on the counters, just buried under decades of thick dust. Outside, an entire escalator system has been completely swallowed by the creeping jungle. It almost looks like some kind of lost Mayan temple. But the physical danger in this environment is severe. Seriously.
Inside the Captain Verstand Theater, the walls, the velvet curtains, the floors, everything is entirely consumed from floor to ceiling by toxic black mold. Explorers describe this feeling of instant panic upon entering, which forces a rapid, breathless retreat just to avoid getting violently sick from breathing the air itself. It is that bad. Section 4. Surviving the sinking piers. Because the danger in this park isn't just in the toxic air you're breathing. The most terrifying threat is actually right beneath your feet. The entire harbor area of this village features a sprawling wooden foundation suspended directly over deep, black seawater. Today, those wooden planks are completely rotten and spongy. Every single footstep you take feels like a deadly gamble, as the floor physically bows and gives way under your weight.
Listen to this first-hand account from an explorer walking these piers. A massive crash. His right leg is completely swallowed by the hole, hanging by his arms over the deep black water. It is a truly heart-stopping moment. I mean, had he fallen entirely through with all his heavy camera gear weighing him down, there was no easy way back up. It's a chilling reminder of how structurally compromised this ghost city really is.
And this structural decay extends right into the park's central attractions, too. Here we have a towering, resting windmill that actually functioned as a Ferris wheel, its steel beams just crumbling from the salty sea air. Right next to it is a beautiful two-story carousel, but as you step onto it, the rotten wood violently creaks and groans. The frozen, rotting white horses are trapped in mid-gallop. These once magical attractions now feel like a dystopian nightmare that is quite literally seconds away from a total collapse.
Section 5. The Doomed Replica Castle.
For the grand finale of this explainer, we are heading deep into the woods to find the largest, most imposing, and arguably most beautiful structure in the entire park. Known by explorers as the Millionaire's Villa, this wasn't actually a home. It was an astrology museum built using authentically imported Dutch bricks, designed as a perfect replica of the European Castile Heemstede. It features this magnificent stone portal, carved with dragons and Roman numerals. Surrounded by creeping vines, it projects an incredibly melancholic beauty, especially as its massive, ghostly facade reflects perfectly in the dark water below.
So the crucial point is the incredible, almost absurd architectural irony of this building. Back in the 1990s, the original castle in the Netherlands tragically burned to the ground. So for years, this Japanese replica was the absolute only intact version of the castle in the entire world. But fate violently swapped their destinies. Today, the original European castle has been luxuriously restored, while this proud replica has been left sinking, rotting, and entirely forgotten. And if you manage to pry open a rusty door into the basement, you find an absolute treasure trove of bizarre relics. Explorers found intricate Roman statues, a stunning, glowing astronomy globe just sitting down there in the dark, and, perhaps most terrifyingly, the original wearable park mascot heads still in their packaging. Frankly, encountering a giant, grinning, decaying mascot head in a pitch-black, moldy basement is more than enough to make anyone sprint right back to civilization. Which leaves us with this final, haunting thought. As this grand, multi-million-dollar illusion sinks silently into the mud, what other monuments to our boundless economic greed are quietly disappearing right now? Holland Village is a stark, fascinating warning of what happens when a bubble bursts and nature comes to reclaim the hubris of mankind. Thank you for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.